Hello, welcome to another episode of Excellent Sports Talk. I'm your host, Mark Bradley, and I want to thank you guys for coming back for another week. And today is going to be a great show. I feel good, and so we are going to go ahead and discuss some very good things, some very good things. So let's go ahead and discuss all the topics right now. So let's go ahead and talk about what's on schedule today. So we're going to begin with the NCAA, and some of the conferences have postponed some of their fall sports, and we're going to go ahead and discuss that. And then we are also going to move on. It's going to be an NBA heavy show today. And we are going to talk about the eighth seed. We're going to begin with the eighth seed in the Western Conference because each conference basically was set in stone since the NBA restart. But the Western Conference was amazing, and we are going to head and speak on that. And then we are also going to go and give our playoff predictions. And I know we did this before a long time ago, but now that the seeds are basically set in stone, we are going to go ahead and give our first round predictions. And so we are going to go ahead and talk about that. But before we do, before we go ahead and continue on with the show, we are going to go ahead and give a big shout out. Give a big shout out to my good friend. He's been a long friend of mine for years and years. We want to thank him for that. And we got some lovely people who enjoys the logo just as much as I do. And so I appreciate what he has done for the show. So we are going to start off with our first topic, which is the NCAA postponing the NCAA season. So basically, in the beginning, the NCAA did decide to have a football season, right? So in the beginning, everything seemed to be okay. They had a plan in motion to have schedule, in conference schedule football season in the fall. But it seemed like some half of the players this was a little bit nervous on going on with the season. And so now we talked about this before in some of the shows. We talked about how the NCAA Power Five conferences were basically going to have their season, because that's the majority of what people to come out to watch every Saturday is the Power Five conferences. And so now some of the conferences are backing out on what they originally have said. So some of the conferences decided to postpone their season going forward. And so one of the big conferences was the Big Ten. That was basically the first to let people know, hey, we're not going to have a season in 2020. We're going to go ahead and postpone it into 2021. And we'll just go from there. We'll just have fall sports, which spring, which is basically will be kind of going into basketball season. And so that was going to be the plan. So the Big Ten was the first big Power Five conference who's not going to have that season. And Big Ten has the big, humongous teams that people come out to watch: Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State, just to name some of the few. And that's a big deal. That's a big deal for that first Power Five conference to take that big step and to say, hey, we're not having a season. We care about the safety of our staff, and we care about the safety of our players. So they went and decided to go against it. So basically, after the Big Ten decided to postpone their season, the Pac-12 followed suit. They followed suit right after the Big Ten, maybe hours later, deciding to postpone their season to 2021 as well. And Pac-12 was one of those teams who decided to have a season, and they was going to go ahead and have the in-conference season. They had the schedule all laid out and everything, and we thought was going to have a season that was just going to go ahead and do what they had to do, but they backed out, and they decided to go against having a season. And it's tough. It has been tough for some of the players who actually wanted to have a season, and that was a big deal. It was like split half and half. Some players didn't want to have a season. Some players did want to have a season. So it was split in half. So this is one of those times where it's going to hurt, some of those players who really wanted to get into the NFL. They would have had those junior years going into their senior years. They was going to have their highlight tape basically ready to go. This is another step of them trying to get their name out there to become a high round draft pick in this upcoming NFL draft that's coming up next year. So it hurts. It definitely hurts. It definitely hurts some of the players and that was looking forward to really getting the season started. And so here's the thing. Some of the Power Five conferences are continuing on with their season. So the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC are still going as planned. They're still going to have their football played in fall, and they're going to try to keep pushing on to have the season to go forward. And it's no surprise to me at all. These are very big football conferences that people generally like sit and wait for hours to watch their games. We all know the SEC is the best college football conference in the United States. Let's keep it real. LSU was the defending national champions. They're in the SEC. Alabama every year is in the playoffs. Why stop that, right? Why stop that? So basically they're going to go ahead and continue on with having their season. But it's kind of weird to see how this is going to happen. I mean, as far as season wise go, because if conferences are still playing in fall, and some some players are not, and some conferences are not having a season, how is that going to coexist? Like, I don't understand how that's going to work. Are you like automatically out of the playoff contention if if you don't play in the fall? You have to think about that, because basically January is the time for the national championship. And we have a comment: the NCAA will not name any champions this year. I'm not surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, unless they really come up with a great game plan to where everybody has to follow. Like, I think it has to get to the point where NCAA has to figure out if they're going. Everybody is going to play either in the fall or in spring, and because you can't mess up what you basically been what you basically been doing for the past couple of years since you decide to have an NCAA playoff. So, like I said, the playoffs is basically in January. They want to start the season in January. Some conferences want to play in the fall. Some want to play in the spring. It's just a big mess. It's a big mess. It is a real big mess, and they have to figure that out. The NCAA has a lot of stuff to figure out, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard because a lot of players want to play, a lot of players don't want to play, and they have to figure it out. Now I don't see the problem with them postponing the season until January, but people are very impatient when it comes to wanting their football. And of course, when your school is one of the top teams that's in the NCAA, people do tend to get impatient, and I understand. I truly get it. But at the end of the day, you do have to worry about people's safety, right? And that's what comes first. And it's more than just playing football and getting your money. It has to be a fine line when it comes to the virus and football. So I hope the NCAA do figure it out before September, because it is coming very rapidly into September. I mean, we're already in the second week of October, going into the third week. So NCAA has a lot of things to figure out in a quick manner. So they'll figure it out. I mean, if we're going to have college football in the spring, I'm all for it, especially with having football and basketball going on at the same time, which is usually a rarity. And so I would enjoy it, and at the end of the day, everybody's safe, and I think that's the biggest deal here, which is concerning everybody. So it'll work itself out. It will work itself out. So that's basically the end of the college football talk, and we are going to go ahead and continue on into the NBA, the NBA Western Conference AFC games. Now, let me tell you, this was great basketball being played during the during the NBA restart. There was some great 8 seeding games that these teams had to play, and some teams stepped up to the plate, especially teams who basically had a reason to play, because let's be real, majority of these teams didn't have much to play for because they was already in the NBA playoffs, especially, the Lakers and the Bucks, what they really had to play for. They was already set in stone with the first pick, the first seed in their both of their conferences. But before the teams that was on the outside looking in, they played excellent basketball. And I'm not talking about the Eastern Conference because they was basically set already, and the outside team looking in was Washington Wizards, and I don't even know why they was in the bubble, but they was there. So, I mean, they was eliminated pretty quick, and unfortunately, they didn't even win games until the end, where basically nobody really cared. So, the Eastern Conference basically set. Now, the West, on the other hand, the West was a gladiator fight. So, we're going to talk about some of those teams who really had something to play for, and we're going to start off with the San Antonio Spurs. And San Antonio was really one of those teams that was on the outside looking in. I believe there was the 11th seed going into the playoffs, and they had to fight. They had to fight to get where they needed to get, and they did that. They absolutely did that. Greg Popovich did an excellent job of getting them ready for the NBA restart, which is not surprising because Greg Popovich is like one of the best coaches in the NBA. In NBA history. So he did an excellent job of getting his team ready to play. And the Spurs beat good teams. They did what they needed to do to get to where they were. Unfortunately, since they were so low in the playoffs, they kind of was on the outside looking in, like I said, and it was kind of hard for them to scratch and claw their way up to the AC. But they did. They managed to get to either a game or a half a game behind of the AC. But unfortunately, they needed some teams to lose, and unfortunately, a lot of those teams didn't do that. Unfortunately, the teams above them did not do that. They was eliminated from playoff contention. And you know what's crazy to really think about this? This is the first time in 22 years that the Spurs will not be in the playoffs. So that's crazy to think about. Like all my life, the Spurs made it to the playoffs. The Spurs made it to the playoffs. Like that's really crazy to think about. And that's just a testament to that franchise being that good each and every year. And they had stars every year. Every single year, those 22 years they made it. Either they was getting close to the Western Conference Finals, or they were in the Western Conference Finals or in the finals. It was one or the other. And this goes back to David Robinson and Tim Duncan. Then Tim Duncan goes there. You got Manu, then Kawhi joins the fold. And then we go back and we remember those Miami Heat, San Antonio Spurs games when LeBron James, Dwayne Wade was going crazy. But then we had the old guys and Tim Duncan. We had Kawhi Leonard starting to come into that superstar status that he's at right now. And man, those was great times. So just to think, after all these years, you just finally just don't make the playoffs, man. It's a hard pill to swallow, and I'm shocked. I'm shocked that it came down to this. But I mean, our good things must come to an end, unfortunately, and this is one of those things. So San Antonio played great basketball going down the stretch. They was right there. They almost had it. Fortunately, it was too little, too late. They didn't do enough in the regular season before the NBA shut down to get to where they need to get to make to the playoffs. So let's continue on. The next team that played well trying to get into the AC was the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns was the only undefeated team since the NBA restarted, was the only undefeated team in Orlando. And let me tell you, let me be honest with you. If I would have told you that the Phoenix Suns would be a half game behind the AC trying to get in the playoff contention, going 8-0 in the NBA restart, and you haven't watched the game, you would have thought I was crazy. You might have thought I was crazy because we all know about the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns have been pushovers for a long time. The Phoenix Suns have been pushovers a long time, and it has not been good for the Phoenix Suns. But they did something in this NBA restart that's going to help them in the long run. That's going to carry over to next season. They have that confidence. They beat really good teams, and we're talking about top teams in the NBA playoffs. I mean, basically everybody in the NBA bubble was playoff teams, and they went and did what they had to do. They played well, went 8-0, and their season basically ended with just 1 point. We're going to get to that later, but 1 point just ended their season. It was so close. Devin Booker played out of his mind. And Devin Booker, I can say, do not get as much credit as he does because he plays for Phoenix. Let's be real. Phoenix gets no love in the media. Nobody is looking for Phoenix Suns games ever. Nobody's ever looking for Phoenix Suns games, and which is sad because Devin Booker is going off each and every night. And I think this NBA restart was that time for him to shine. And they saw this because they had basically national primetime games each and every day for those teams who was in the NBA restart. And he showed out. He showed out. Devin Booker played like Devin Booker. And I have to say it, man. I think Devin Booker, it's time for him to leave. It's time for him to leave. It's time for him to leave Phoenix. It's time. I think he needs to go to that major market and show what he can do on that big stage, because Phoenix is not doing much to help him at all. The front office is not aggressive at all, and they're really not making the necessary moves to help Phoenix. Phoenix haven't been good since Steve Nash left. So I think if Phoenix makes some moves in the offseason and build around Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, I think Phoenix could be a tough team going forward. Now, unfortunately, they do play in the Western Conference, and they do play in a tough division, the Pacific Division. You got to deal with the Lakers, and then you got to deal with the Golden State Warriors, who will be better next year because due to injury, they couldn't do much. Steph Curry was hurt for a majority of the year, and Klay Thompson was hurt the whole year. So they basically had a G League team playing in San Francisco last year, but they're going to be better next year. So Phoenix Suns, it's still going to be a tough road, because you got to deal with the Lakers and the Warriors in that division. But they have a bright future. I think they do have a bright future, and they play well in the NBA bubble, going undefeated. And I enjoyed watching them. I truly did enjoy watching them. And unfortunately, the season had to come down to a point, but it did. It did. So those are the two teams that played well. Now we're going to move on to Memphis. Memphis was the 8th seed going into the playoffs, and Memphis played horrible during the NBA restart. Memphis played horrible. They did nothing to help themselves maintain that 8th seed at all. Memphis lost every game except the last one to the Milwaukee Bucks And Milwaukee was basically on cruise control. They did not care about that game whatsoever. It's the last game. They're already the best team in the NBA. Why play our star players, right? So Memphis blew them out, but they didn't beat anybody else. Anybody else. And that hurt themselves. That hurt themselves bad. So now they have to go into an NBA playing game. Now, since the NBA restart, they said if you are four games between the 8th and the 9th seed, if you're in between, they will have a playoff game. So Memphis ended up becoming the 9th seed. Memphis, why? You guys had it right there. I don't know what could have happened between the restart. I mean, the regular season ending and the restart coming back, the NBA restart. I don't know what happened in between then, but it wasn't a good look for Memphis at all. All they had to do was go ahead and win, and they're in the playoffs. They didn't do that. And now they're in a tough situation with this next team I'm getting into, which is the Portland Trailblazers. And gosh, man, what can we talk about? Damian Lillard is a man possessed right now. I don't know what's gotten into him, but Damian Lillard has been on a tear these past 3 games since he lost to the Clippers. The Clippers, when he missed those last 2 game-winning free throws to win the game against Los Angeles Clippers, and Los Angeles Clippers clowned him bad. It was on Twitter. Damian Lillard, Paul George, and Patrick Beverley was going back and forth. Then all of a sudden, they family get into it. Paul George's wife get into it. It was just a mess. But you know, they did apologize. Don't get me wrong. They did apologize for let that situation getting that far ahead. But Damian Lillard has played out of this world, and due to his leadership, the Portland Trailblazers managed to get into the AFC playing game. And I think we kind of all seen this coming, because throughout the regular season before the NBA was shut down, man, the team was hurt. You had Yusuf Nurkic, who's their starting center, who's a big piece to the team. He was hurt basically all year, and they had to go with Hassan Whiteside, who's a good center. Don't get me wrong, but he's not the same as Yusuf Nurkic. Nurkic does a lot for that team. And Carmelo Anthony was just coming into the team. He was still trying to get his legs under him and get used to the Portland team. But now, since the NBA has restarted, Portland has played great. And they did what they needed to do to get to the 8th seed and have a playing game with the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, so here's the situation with the playing game, right? So Memphis is officially the 9th seed now. They're out of the playoffs, and now they have to play their way back into the 8th seed. Portland, with their win against the Brooklyn Nets last night, managed to get into the 8th seed. So what this means is, if Portland wins one game, they're automatically in the playoffs. They got it. They will play the Lakers in the first round, and they'll be good to go. Now, Memphis has to win 2 games to regain that 8th seed that they lost. So Memphis have a hard hill to climb, because the way Damian Lillard is playing and the way that the team is coming together at the right time, I see Portland handling their business. I see Portland handling their business and getting that eighth seed. And honestly, I don't think Memphis is the best team. It's the best team here. To be honest with you, without Ja Morant playing like he's playing, and I'm going to say this, he's definitely rookie of the year. Definitely rookie of the year. I know people want to say Zion, but Zion doesn't have that resume that Ja Morant had. Zion Williamson was hurt throughout the whole season. Basically the whole season. And when the NBA restarted, he played well, yes, but he didn't show me enough like Ja Morant did. So he's rookie of the year. And without Ja Morant, I don't think Memphis is that good of a team. I just don't. So Portland, I see them handling their business. I see them getting that eighth spot and playing the Lakers. And man, Memphis, that's a big disappointment, man. All they had to do was win, and they was in. But unfortunately, they didn't do what they need to do. So, and Portland did. So the AFC was great, and I thought that was amazing basketball for those who was on the outside looking in. Everybody played well. Everybody did an excellent job. Now it's time to get into the playoffs time. And that leads me to my next topic, which is to be the last topic. We're going to have the NBA playoff predictions. And before I go ahead and continue on with that, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to comment, and we can go ahead and interact. You can comment on YouTube. You can go ahead and leave me a comment, and I can see it right here. We can highlight it. On Facebook, it's a little different. I have to see it on my computer. I got right here, and we can go ahead and talk about it. And guys, you know what? We actually added a new streaming platform for my channel, Twitch. Guys, if you're on Twitch watching me right now, please comment. And I didn't even know you can go ahead and use Twitch. I'm excited to start streaming on Twitch, and I hope I can get my followers up on Twitch, and I'm excited. That was a huge deal for me. I love Twitch. Twitch is a great platform for streamers and for people who do have talk shows and podcasts like I do. Twitch is a great streaming platform. So I'm excited to start my broadcast on Twitch and growing with you guys. So let's go ahead and continue on with the NBA playoff predictions. So before we go ahead and continue on that, we did predict all the way up to the finals. It was a long time ago. I think it was my first show actually. We predicted the NBA playoffs going before the restart. Now that the seedings are basically set in stone, we know who's going to play who. We're going to start off with the first round of the NBA finals the first round of the NBA playoffs, and we're going to gradually move up as the NBA finals move. We're going to keep predicting, and we're going to talk about who we like as playoff favorites. So let's go ahead and begin. Let's go ahead and begin. So we're going to start with the Eastern Conference. So the Eastern Conference, we're going to start with Milwaukee versus Orlando. And this was basically, I predicted this series. Nothing's changed as far as seedings as this playoff series go. And nothing's going to change with my prediction. I still see Milwaukee sweeping the Orlando Magics in 4 games. I don't see anybody stopping Giannis Antetokounmpo. He is a force. He's probably going to be the MVP again this year. Back-to-back MVPs. It's hard to see anybody stopping that high-powered offense. Plus, they also play great defense as well. And I think it's just too much for the Magic to handle. I don't know who you can put on Giannis. I mean, other than what, Aaron Gordon? And Aaron Gordon is way too undersized to even mess with Giannis. Maybe Mo Bamba. I don't know. I just don't see. I don't see it. I just don't. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for Orlando. I think they're just going to get overpowered. And yeah, I don't know what much more I can say about this series. This is going to be a sweep. And Milwaukee is going to go ahead and move on to the next round. So with Milwaukee going on to the next round, we're going to move on to the next series, which is the Miami Heat and the Indiana Pacers. And I think people are excited for this series because majority of us know about Jimmy Butler and TJ Warren's, problems they had. And it was a little too close to fighting in the regular season when they played in the regular season. That was a huge deal, man. They was talking crazy to each other, like, oh man, he's not even in my league. He can't even do nothing to me. They was just talking all types of crazy to each other. Now they have to meet up to potentially be 7 games. And this is going to be a hard-fought series. I think this is going to be a very underrated series here because both of these teams match up very well with each other. Both these teams can score the ball and play great defense as well. And let's not forget what TJ Warren has done since the NBA restart. That man has rose his game to another level. He's been playing out of his mind. I think since the NBA restarted, he was just scoring like 38 points a game. Wow. So are we going to get that TJ Warren in this 7-game series? If we get that TJ Warren in the 7-game series and Victor Oladipo is doing what he needs to do, this could be a series that Indiana can win, but unfortunately, I don't see Indiana winning this series. I predict Miami winning the series in 7 games. Because Miami has a potent offense, man. Their offense is good. It's very good. They have great shooters. They starting to have a superstar in Bam Adebayo, who's in his second year, is doing an excellent job of getting his NBA life together. And then you have Jimmy Butler, who's a leader that's just not going to let them lose. Jimmy Butler is not going to let Miami lose. But I do see this series going 7 games, and I see Miami winning the series in 7 games. So this is going to be an underrated series, and I'm gonna look out for that series. And I see it going 7 games. Like I said, if you want to go ahead and comment, you have your predictions of the NBA playoffs, please let me know. So let's continue on to Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers. I almost said Philly. It's like, we playing in MLB. No. Philadelphia 76ers. And this could have had potential to be a great series, one of the best first round series in the playoffs. But unfortunately, people can't stay healthy. So Ben Simmons is out. He's not playing in the series because he broke his kneecap. And that was the problem with Philly going into the NBA restart, was if they can stay healthy, right? If they can stay healthy, this could have been a Eastern Conference playoff type teams, but gosh, it can't stay healthy. So Ben Simmons is out, and now basically the whole team relies on what Joel Embiid does going forward. And that's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy for Joel Embiid to go ahead and lead the Philadelphia Phillies past the Boston Celtics in this series. Boston Celtics has a lot of firepower. Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum, Gordon Hayward. The list goes on, right? Jaylen Brown, I even say him. Jaylen Brown's a good player. Boston is stacked. So I can say with this series, either it can go 5 or 6 games. I think Boston is going to win in 5 or 6 games. Boston Celtics winning in 5 or 6 games. And it's up to what Joel Embiid does. If he's scoring 30 points a game and causing ruckus for the Boston Celtics, then it could be different. It could be a 7-game series, but I just don't see Philadelphia winning this series without Ben Simmons. That really hurt them, losing a player of his caliber who does a lot. He's big, he's strong, he can handle the ball, he can rebound, he does so much for that team, and unfortunately it's not meant to go. I'm sorry, I had to focus my camera. So let's continue on with the last Eastern Conference first round series, which is the Toronto Raptors and the Brooklyn Nets. And Toronto was another team that played extremely well in the NBA restart. And they established themselves as one of those top teams, even without Kawhi Leonard. And that's hard to do because Kawhi Leonard is Kawhi Leonard, right? But they did what they needed to do. Pascal Siakam showed why he's a superstar in this league, a very underrated superstar. And other role players like Fred VanVleet really stepped up to make sure Toronto was still a playoff team. And there was the second seed in the Eastern Conference behind Milwaukee. So here's the deal. Are we going to get playoff Kyle Lowry? And we seen Kyle Lowry stink it up in the playoffs. He's been on record to stink in the playoffs. So if we get this Kyle Lowry, they're in trouble because you do not have Kawhi Leonard to bail you out again. So if we get Kyle Lowry, who played well this whole season, they would have no problem handling Brooklyn. Maybe in 5 games or in 6. Brooklyn has a lot of they don't have as much talent, but they play hard, which is always good for a playoff team. You get people who play hard, you're going to win games, and they do. And Karis LeVert is starting to become a superstar there in Brooklyn. If he plays well, it's going to be good for Brooklyn. But I just don't see them having enough talent to overcome the Toronto team. So I see Toronto winning in 5 or 6 games. So let's go ahead and continue on with the Western Conference now. So we are going to begin with the Los Angeles Lakers. They're still waiting for the play-in game between Portland and Memphis. And I think Portland, like I said before, they was going to handle their business and get into the playoffs. So I predict it's going to be a Lakers Blazers series. And I think it's going to be a tough series. I think Portland is going to give the Lakers fits because Portland has one of the best backcourts in the NBA with Dame Lillard and CJ McCollum. That's going to cause a lot of problems for the Los Angeles Lakers, who doesn't really have the best backcourt like the Trailblazers. So the Lakers in Portland, I think the Lakers are going to win, but the Lakers have been looking beatable these past games in the NBA the NBA restart, and I don't think they really gave it their all out effort because they was already the number one seed going into the playoffs, but they're going to have to step their game up because if you think Dame Lillard for a second is going to lay down, let the Lakers do whatever they want, you're completely out of your mind. That man is a competitor, and he's going to do everything in his power to lead that team on. But the problem with the Portland Trailblazers, they cannot rebound or they cannot play defense. And that's two things the Lakers can do. They can rebound. If you can't rebound, you don't win games. I'm going to just let you know that up front. If you can't rebound, you can't win games. And the Lakers have a lot of bigs that are big and physical and like to rebound. And the Blazers can't play defense. And unfortunately, I don't think they have much of a team to contain both LeBron James and Anthony Davis. It's like pick your poison. One of them is going to go off, so they have to figure it out. Now, if the Blazers can outscore the Lakers, then that would be their best bet because they don't want to get in the defensive battle with the Los Angeles Lakers because it's not going to be good for them. It's not going to be good for them. So I think the Lakers still pull it out, but I think it's going to be a 6-game series. It's going to be a tough one. It's going to be a tough one. So we have predict the Lakers going ahead and winning. So we're going to continue on with the next series, which is the Houston Rockets and Oklahoma City Thunder. And I think both of these teams were waiting for this because, before the season started, the Oklahoma City Thunder traded with the Houston Rockets for Russell Wilson. It's not football. Russell Westbrook to go to the Houston Rockets. And they traded with Chris Paul, who was with the Houston Rockets, went to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now they're meeting up in the playoffs. Oh man, you can't ask for anything better here. So let's look at this. Russell Westbrook will not play in a few games. They said a few games in this playoff series, and that's going to hurt the Houston Rockets for sure. For sure. And the Oklahoma City Thunder was not supposed to make the playoffs. We counted them out before the season even started. It was looking like, Chris Paul, they don't have as much talent anymore without Russell Westbrook. Chris Paul's just old. He can't do it anymore. He proved everybody wrong, and they are here now. And I think with this series, as long as James Harden is being James Harden, I see the Houston Rockets winning this series. But I think this is a 7-game series for sure. This is going to be one of those great first-round series that we all look for. It's going to be a 7-game series. I think James Harden is going to find a way to lead the Houston Rockets into the second round and moving on to play the Lakers, man, because Houston can score. Houston can score. They play good enough defense to move on to the next round. They're going to be okay defensively. What's up, Real? Yes, that is a radio. It's a record player. So yes, it's a record player. It's a record player. So yeah, it is. But I appreciate you coming on the show. Yes, it's a record player. So yeah. So So basically, I see Houston winning for a 7-game series. 7-game series. And so let's continue on. That's gonna be a good series. So let's continue on with the Denver Nuggets and the Utah Jazz. And we got another comment because this is a hot take. Dallas is winning the finals. Don't at me. Real. They have to play the Clippers. We're gonna get to that, man. I don't want to move on. But look. So the Denver Nuggets and Utah Jazz. So this is another great series to look out for. Utah and Denver. This is a big rivalry, and both of these teams really don't like each other because they're so close in proximity, right? And look, both of these teams are similar to each other. They both have the same strength, same weaknesses, I think. Because Jamal Murray and Donovan Mitchell complement each other. Rudy Gobert and Nikola Jokic complement. Well, they don't really complement each other, but they're both great centers. Gobert is a big inside center, big traditional center. Nikola Jokic is a very versatile center that can do a lot of things well, but they complement each other very well. And at the end of the day, I see Denver winning in a 6-game series, and it's going to be a great battle. They complement each other really well, and I wouldn't be surprised to see all 6 games of this series being like a buzzer beater or coming down to it, or a really close game, like a 4.5 point victory. So it's going to be a good series. That's going to be a good series for both of them. And I'm excited. That's another underrated series right there. And we're going to have to see how that play out. It can go either way. I can't lie to you guys. I cannot lie. So let's go on to the last series I want to talk about in the Western Conference. And we are going to go ahead and talk about the Los Angeles Clippers and the Dallas Mavericks. So, look, I'm going to be 100% real with you guys. 100% real with you guys. What's going on, Greg? Joe's going to be a most important player in that series. I think so too, man. Some X factors need to step up in that series, and Joe Ingles is one of those players. He has to play well. Now we know Joe Ingles is one of those trailblazers that does stuff that, like, you can be like, oh my God, why do you do that? But he is who he is, man. He's a great shooter, and he gets under the skin of people. He don't play defense, but he can score. I mean, and then they don't have Bogdanovich, who's their second leading scorer, and it's going to be tough. You say Dallas in 1, that's impossible, but we're going to go from there. That's impossible, but let's talk about it. So, like I was saying, this is going to be a tough series. This is one of those 2-7 series that is not the same, because the Dallas Mavericks have a MVP type player in Luka Doncic. This man is not your average player, and he's going to give the Los Angeles Clippers some problems. Luka Doncic can play. He's going to get his triple doubles regardless. And you can look at Luka Doncic, it's like, man, he plays so slow, but gosh, when he hit you with that step back and he hit that rainbow jumper of his, it's like you can't stop it. You cannot stop it. And then you also have a healthy Kristaps Porzingis who's playing well in the NBA bubbles. Those two guys are playing great with each other. And Dallas has an eye for international players. I don't know what it is, but whoever their international scout is in Dallas needs to No, I'm not real in a wheelchair. I'm perfectly fine. You're real hilarious, bro. But I'm look. Look. Luka Doncic and Kristaps Porzingis complement each other very well, and they're going to give the Clippers some fits. This is not going to be a easy 2-7 matchup that we're always accustomed to, right? So it's going to be a good series, but unfortunately, I don't see them beating the Clippers. I just don't. I just don't see them beating the Clippers because when you have Kawhi Leonard and Paul George on your team, it's tough. They play defense, they can score, and I always say this. I think Kawhi Leonard today is the closest thing to Kobe Bryant. It's the closest thing to Kobe Bryant. Not as far as, accomplishments, because Kobe is a Hall of Famer, first ballot. He won multiple championships with the Lakers. Kobe's Kobe. But as far as game-wise, as how he plays, as far as him getting to his spots, him having that excellent mid-range jumper that Kawhi Leonard does, that's Kobe like every day. Every day. And so I just cannot see I can't see the Mavericks beating the Clippers. I think it's going to be a 6-game series. It's going to be a good one. Dallas is one of those 7 seeds you just do not want to see. You did not want to see. So that's basically what I have for my predictions. So if you missed it, we're going to go back. We have Milwaukee, Miami, Boston, and Toronto moving on. And then we have the Lakers, Houston, Denver, and Clippers all moving on to the finals. Yeah, I'm sorry, real. It's hard for me to see the Clippers losing. I don't see them losing in the first or second round. They're going to make it to the Western Conference Finals. They're a good game. They're a good game. Greg. You said if Harold is back in Dallas, he don't stand a chance. That's very true. Yeah, Montrezl Harrell's one of those X factors. And you said it have so many people that can throw at Luka. That's very true. Luka's going to be very tired at the end of this series, and it's going to be tough for him. But he has to make sure he gets players involved, which he will, and he's going to make sure that the Clippers going to make sure that they tire him out. Now it's up to Kristaps Porzingis to play like a superstar, which he thought he was going to be. He's going to have to average like 20. And you said Luka and PG, Kawhi and Porzingis going to cancel each other out. It's going to be about the role players. You are correct. You are absolutely correct. And it's up to, we're going to see, maybe, you never know, Seth Curry might ball out, and you never know. Seth Curry is known to put up some good numbers. It's known to put up some good numbers. And Boban Marjanovic, you never know. I don't know. I'm just throwing some players out. And, the role players on the Clippers is great. Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell are those guys, man, 6 Man of the Year candidates. It's going to be tough for them. So you guys are you guys are very right. You guys are adding it's very, very interesting to see how the role players play. So you got to look out for that. You have to look out for that. So basically that wraps up the show. I want to thank everybody who came out to the show. We are going to be back here, same time, same place, at noon to 1 Pacific Standard Time every Friday. And I want to thank everybody who came and commented. This was a great show. It was a great interactive show, man. TJ, I appreciate you coming out to the show, man. Thanks. And you guys, this is a great interactive show. I appreciate it. I love when I can interact back and forth. It makes my job a lot easier. Oh, Greg, let me answer your question before I hop out. I have Portland winning the AC. I think Memphis just laid an egg. I think Memphis just laid an egg and did a horrible job in the NBA restart. It really bad, really bad. So I think Portland is going to handle their business, and you have to beat Portland twice. The way Damian Lillard has been playing, I don't see the Memphis Grizzlies winning one game. So Portland's going to win the AC. It's going to be the Lakers, Portland. And it's going to be a good first round series. So, like I said, it's a great interactive stream. I have laid an egg. All right. So I appreciate everybody who came out, and if they had Jackson, would be a different story. You're right. He did get hurt. That really did hurt him, but I just don't see it. And I'm not in a wheelchair, bro. Thanks. and and I'm not in a wheelchair, guys. I just want you guys to know I'm not in a wheelchair. You guys are hilarious. So I just want to thank you guys for coming into the stream. And so I will be back. I will be back here next Friday from noon to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I can't wait to see you guys again. So I'll see you next week. Peace. I'm not in a wheelchair. Peace.